fun. So there are lots of different ways of interpreting the moral narrative or the philosophical narrative of these different pieces. I would think of that one as sort of Epicurean. But we should start with the Cynics and Diogenes. So we're thinking about the post-Aristotelians and Diogenes. Now, why do I start with Diogenes? If you kind of chain them logically together, the Cynic is reacting to the situation in the Greek Empire, which is combining all of these different cultures so that everyone's aware that there are people living in different ways than we are. And they seem to be doing fine, even though they speak different languages and they believe totally different things, different gods, all sorts of differences from all these people. So it becomes a very complex situation, and people end up, I think, becoming they have a problem with what they should believe. You know, why should I continue to believe what I was raised to think when I can see that there are differences of opinion in all these other places and they seem to be doing fine? It seems like my beliefs are childlike compared to some of the other ones. So you end up with this complex situation, and people, I think, end up becoming emotionally distraught over what they should believe. And you, of course, can compare that to living in the United States today in most places, because what you see is diversity. In fact, we celebrate diversity. I know Anchorage is kind of impressive when they point out that of all the high schools in the United States, East High School is the most diverse. You heard that? You know, and we celebrate it. How many languages do we speak in Anchorage? 90 something? I mean, now, of course, that doesn't mean we all have to go out there and speak in 90 different languages. Impossible, probably. I think the more languages you add to your collection, the more confused you get. They say, and it's a fascinating comment, and I don't remember who says it. Might have been Constantine the Great, but gain a language, gain a soul. So whatever we think of as our soul, it first off seems to require language, and it requires us to be reflective thinking, which of course is a linguistic skill, because in that language you end up learning concepts that you apply to yourself. Who am I? I have to define myself, and then I have to try to establish myself in that role, and I have to try to play that role well, because I don't want to be piss poor at being a father, and so on and so forth. So I want to try to learn as well as I can how to be a self, and that self is embedded into a cultural norm that is linguistic. So if I study Yesho Drugoi Yazik, I now have a second soul when I'm in that language. You know, so if I go from one language to another, my personality changes, my voice changes, right? So how do you react to a situation where, if you remember my cognitive map, you no longer have certitude, you no longer have one community that you can feel a part of. Instead, you're drawn to the center by, say, a John Stuart Mill type uncertitude. The quintessence of science is always thinking that whatever we think isn't quite right. There's still more to learn, and I hope to find out what's wrong with the way we think now, so that I can come up with a solution for that problem, so that I can bring about the next advance. Why should Einstein get all the glory? Right? Einstein, Albert, Hare, that Einstein. I think during the post-Aristotelian period, which, by the way, of course, as you can see, is quite a broad scope. We're covering quite 300, 400, 500 years in just one class, right? They're all trying to deal with the complexity of this empire and what they should believe, and it's stressful. And how do you have a happy life? If your goal is to have a happy life, thanks to Aristotle, eudaimonia, I want that. I want to be happy. Should it be through love, as we see with Dolce Pontes and Andrea Bocelli singing about the intense pleasure of being in love? Wow, that's impressive. If you ever have that chance, I hope you do. It's absolutely amazing. By the way, by the time you get 72, it doesn't really work quite so well. You're still there, but it becomes more of a memory, etc. Except through song. Songs, by the way, I think are absolutely an amazing way of reliving those kinds of youthful experiences when you had more hormones because your body was healthier than it has become. Tired, in a way. The cynics react to these stresses by saying, I don't want any of it. I'm out of here. I'm not even paying attention. Nothing. I'm just going to be happy and do what I want to do at the moment and ignore all the stresses that society creates for itself, the wars that are going on, the fights over ideals and things. I'm out of here. I'm going to live basically the life of a dog. That's the name cynic from the dog philosophy, right? And the dog, right? And why the dog? Well, I don't know if you've ever studied the life of a dog. They seem really happy when they have the things that are basic necessities for them. They get upset over some things, of course, if you're not there when they need you, or they don't have the right food in their bowl, or they have needs. But as long as those are satisfied, they seem happy with life. And so in a sense, the cynic. Diogenes is famous because he's an exaggerated version of that. One of the stories, Alexander the Great comes up to him with one of his generals, Ptolemy, and sees Diogenes there. And so he comes over to Diogenes and is introduced to Diogenes. This is Alexander. And Alexander says, is there anything I can do for you, Diogenes? And Diogenes looks up at him. He had blocked the sun when he came over. And Diogenes says, you can step out of the sun. And Ptolemy thought, oh shit, that's the end of Diogenes. But instead, Alexander looked at Diogenes and said, if I were not Alexander, I would want to be Diogenes. That's the way I would want to live. However, he does other things that are really quite embarrassing, and you can look those up for yourself. I lived in a barrel. So I think of this as kind of, who do we have that lives this way today? A lot of people right here in town that are homeless on purpose. They want to be that way. They don't want to deal with having a mortgage, a job they have to get up to go to every day. They don't want to do any of that stuff. They don't want to have any of that problem. They could just live in a barrel, basically, out in the woods, maybe have a little fire, to keep warm every once in a while, but it's all there. They can just make it that way. And in a way, a lot of people, I think, grew up living that way. During the summer especially, you would leave town and go out and live at fish camp and stuff, and just basically make do with nature. So when I think of who are the cynics today, I think there are some. They're out there, and a lot of them are living in Seattle, San Francisco, different places. That's just my thinking. And the narrative is pretty clear, right? I want to be happy by not being tied into all the problems of the world. I'm just escaping it. So I think of it as an escapist. Moving along from the cynic, notice Epicurus is 341 to 270 BC, so roughly a contemporary of, bless you, Gesundheit, gute Zdrowie, votre santé. I don't know all of them, but you get the idea. Yeah, you could do that too. In any case, Epicurus, where we get the word Epicurean. So if you go to a restaurant that's proud of its menu, it's really an exorbitant, especially magnificent menu that you can try all kinds of wonderful foods. They're often advertising their menu as Epicurean delight. It's absolutely delicious. So where does that come from, Epicurus? And yet that seems totally wrong, actually. In fact, the worst situation that I can think of really is portrayed in try again here. There we go. Trigger warning. This is disgusting.
Dicono che sta tra Terracina e Taranto. Io mi devo sconfinare con la Sicilia, perché mi voglio fare un viaggio fino in Africa. Così a piedi, a cavallo o anche per mare, navigo sempre su. Simile in questo al sempre errante Ulisse. Mi piace la citazione? Anche a tavola i classici ci stanno bene. Questa qui era la prima barba che vederai. Io sembravo Genova a 14 anni. E questi sono i rami miei, protettori della nostra proprietà. Affarone, contentone e guadagnone, provizi siano gli dei. Vedete qui a sei della parte, se in dato caso se ne acquista. Né l'uno né l'altro non hanno lasciato a te il testamento da parte. cucina più grosso così, ma ha detto che se non ti è bene ti passano una debuia discopi. Una volta, per favore, non mi come. E che cos'è un povero?
Che cos'è un povero?
Guarda il vaso.
Is he going to go throw up or pee?
Mentre ti porti? Ah no. Allora
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
abbiamo avuto un gran freddo, il bagno mi ha scaldato la stella. Ah, bene che mosche siamo, bene che mosche. Loro una certa resistenza ce l'hanno, ma noi niente più che delle bombe siamo. Così cominci per contadino che aveva perduto un paio di mezz'anni. La sua mano il uomo che andava ora era più nero di un colpo. Se aveva più di 70 anni e ancora andava in colore. Non lasciava in pace nemmeno il cane di casa.
That's kind of disgusting. He's the main character in the movie, by the way, the blonde boy. This is Fellini's Satyricon. Fellini was an Italian producer, movie producer, and Satyricon is an ancient Roman play or story about the experiences of the young boy in various situations in Rome.